Welcome back to In Progress. I'm Progress Texas Executive Director Kathleen Thompson. We're trying something new. This is our second episode of In Progress. Our staff meetings go long because we all are professional communicators who want to communicate about things we're happy about, things we're pissed about, things we're want to make sure everybody's aware of. So we're going to bring this conversation to you in hopes that you'll share these conversations with folks, your place of work, in your neighborhood, at the neighborhood barbecue, at your happy hours, at the Little League games, and wherever you find yourself. I'm going to start off today with measles. The measles outbreak has come to North Texas, and it's been in Collin County, and it's been in Tarrant County. And I just want to remind listeners that $21 million, if not more, were spent on anti-trans ads by Republicans in the 2024 election. And we now have more children and adults with measles than we have trans athletes in Texas.
Wow.
But you don't hear Republicans sounding an alarm. You hear Republicans praising quack doctors like our health secretary, Robert Kennedy Jr., giving accolades to people who propose taking an inhaler. Inhalers don't combat COVID. Inhalers don't help treat measles. We're doing such a disservice by not paying attention to public health, to measles in particular. And I also wanted to brag on my kids whenever I can. And one of my kiddos is working on his Eagle Scout, but to get there, he's doing Eagle required merit badges, and one of them is citizenship in the nation. And he was required to write a letter about any topic of his choice. And he wrote to Representative Jasmine Crockett about public health and about his concern about the measles outbreak and, this potentially coming into his school. And he shared that a member of our family had polio as a child. And kiddos these days in Texas and, across the country don't have to deal with lifelong effects because we have vaccines. So I'm really on fire this week about this measles outbreak that was entirely preventable. The spread is also entirely preventable if we all talk to each other and make sure that we're aware of what can be done, but then also do like my boy did and thank Representative Jasmine Crockett and other Democrats and progressives who are doing everything they can to promote public health and not quack science.
Kathleen, I'm going to give a little spin to the measles plug here as well of noting, RFK Jr.'s wife, that's Cheryl Hines. And so if you know anything about what her and Larry David have been in, Curb Your Enthusiasm, kind of a Seinfeld playoff, I'm actually doing pretty good today, comparably, but I don't have measles. And also, if you look at that story and it's all reality and, you look at it in the truth of what health experts are telling us right now, we are actually doing pretty not so good at the moment.
Right.
But, today I'm hanging out actually at EarthX 2025 here in Dallas, getting to lead a panel on the first 100 days in the Trump administration and how that's affecting environmental organizations. And, as I'm kind of running through the run of show today, I'm really, learning a lot about different environmental organizations like the Sunrise Movement, like the Environmental Defense Fund, like Environment Texas, like Public Citizen. Those are actually some of the folks I'll be talking to today. And learning about what they do as organizers, as activists in their own right. And what is an activist? Are activists bad like the Trump administration's like trying to tell us right now? We've been hearing that Trump is looking to revoke or rip away the C3 status of many of these environmental organizations, the Sierra Club, Public Citizen, Sunrise Movement. And just a quote that sat with my heart comes from Edward Abbey, who is an environmental activist in his own right, wrote a really neat book called The Monkey Wrench Gang. And he said, "Power is always dangerous. Power attracts the worst and corrupts the best. May your trails be crooked, winding, lonesome, dangerous, and leading to the most amazing views. And many of y'all know I live out in West Texas on the Big Bend, and I get amazing views out there. But then I come to these conferences and I see so many different interests here. You know, I could speak a lot on that, but it's definitely an interesting place to be. And I'm definitely looking forward to today to be able to expose some of that power and hopefully learn more about protecting my rights to be able to talk about the Trump administration truthfully.
Right. Man, I'm excited to hear more about what you learn at that event for sure. You know, we live in a state that is we're the energy capital of the world, you could say. You know, people have said that, and it's true in so many ways. And you know, we're seeing right now our heroes at the Capitol doing all they can to make sure that that it's as difficult as possible for our clean energy revolution to continue. We're already the leader in that regard. You know, much to the chagrin of the fossil fuel producers who would just as soon, you know, keep the crown, as it were, and and our environment and our safety and our health be damned. So, yeah, I'm really interested to hear more about what you're learning there, Reagan, and really interesting also in terms of the assault on the good work and the mission that all of these different organizations are doing by the Trump administration. We're seeing a blanket threat that nonprofits of all different issue areas are preparing to sustain from the Trump administration. We're talking reproductive rights. We're talking immigrants' rights. We're talking, ACLU, you name it. You know, all of these different organizations that right now are preparing, we've learned from the Associated Press today, to potentially be ready to tackle, accusations of, I don't know what, terrorism or whatever, garbage they decide to concoct.
What does that mean? You know, it's a word I don't even like saying. And
me too.
It's so loaded.
It's in the playbook. What's funny is you would think that they would maybe do this a little more slyly and a little more quietly, but it's obvious that they're, on our college campuses right now trying to connect support for children in Palestine to support of terrorism, which is obviously not the case, but that's apparently a slippery slope and a connection that some people are willing to have made for them. And so just in a different way that they're going to be able to, equate basic freedoms and the open discussion of ideas with criminality or with terrorism. Once they can do that, then they can begin to come after organizations, frankly, not unlike Progress Texas, where we're about the discussion and the support of open ideas and democracy and freedom. If they're able to connect that with some kind of nefarious activity, it's going to be easier for them, at least in the court of public opinion, to be able to come after organizations like ours and like all of the ones that we're allied with. And so this is scary times in that sort of way. And Reagan, that's not even what I'm pissed off about. What I'm pissed off about today is, so there was a vote in the Texas Senate yesterday that was about a bill that is seeking to preempt what we've seen in different cities around Texas with marijuana laws. A whole bunch of different cities. And I'm talking, when I say cities, I'm talking Houston, I'm talking Dallas. I'm also talking, Elgin and Bastrop and little small cities that are ostensibly a lot more conservative politically in terms of the way their votes stack out. A lot of these cities have decided that they would just as soon not pack their jails with people who have been caught with a joint. Marijuana decriminalization ordinances is what we're talking about here. This is something that Ken Paxton has been just completely, he just cannot take the idea that people in Texas cities might not want to completely throw the book at people for having a little bit of pot on them. And so this Senate bill yesterday passed, which will basically outlaw the ability for Texas cities to put these types of ordinances on local ballots. These things have passed with huge popularity in a lot of places. I think the only town, being a Lubbock native myself, I think the only town in Texas that said no to this is Lubbock. And
it was by a really small margin. I was going to say there that in places like Austin, these ordinances or San Marcos, they're passed with 60 to 80% margins.
80% in San Marcos, yes.
Yeah, and and then in Lubbock, you're right. It was maybe a 3 to 5% miss on that target, but.
And I think there was a big effort against it there too, which is something that some of these other towns have not seen. So at any rate. I'm not super surprised that the highly stacked Republican Texas Senate would pass something like this. What does surprise me is that we have 3 Democrats who voted for this. And their names are not super surprising either to people who have followed Democratic politics for a while in Texas. Senator Judith Zaffirini, Senator Juan Chuy Hinojosa, and Senator Cesar Blanco are the 3 who voted in favor of this. They are all known, generally conservative Democrats, and that way it's not super surprising. But when you think about what this really means, these 3 senators have places like San Marcos, for example. El Paso, of course, is Cesar Blanco's district there. Senator Hinojosa is over all of Nueces County, or most of Nueces County. Judith Zaffirini has pieces of Austin and San Antonio under her districts. And so to me, you know, there's a difference between the way a senator should approach their job and the way a representative should approach their job. Senators have big pieces of Texas that have a lot of different sort of, you know, perspectives. Representatives have smaller pieces. And so to me, a representative can maybe get way more with saying, well, I'm just serving the individual needs of my particular, you know, constituents in my district. Senators, it's a bigger picture. So to me, a senator should be more clued into the idea that it's not about weed, it's about local democracy, small d democracy. And for these senators to have voted in favor of this bill are basically telling the people in El Paso and in San Marcos and in parts of these bigger cities and even in these smaller cities that are within their jurisdictions that they were wrong, that they have no business supporting the idea that they don't want to throw people in jail for having a little bit of pot around. We are all struggling with this terrible situation that the Democratic Party has been in overall. Our numbers are down. Our popularity is down. Part of that is because we seem to fail to fight. And I think that these 3 senators in particular, going along with this vote, it just to me sends the message all over again to these people in these communities that these senators, regardless of what letter is after their name, are not there to fight for your rights.
And I want to add to that, too, that there's been a few huge announcements this week in the DNC. One being that started last week with David Hogg announcing his initiative to start trying to find and promote young progressive leaders to be able to run for elected offices, specifically for congressional offices. And another noting, you know, I guess in that regard with David Hogg noting, you know, finding what that new party is going to be, a working class party, a young party, a progressive party. And then further, talking about these new investments in the state parties from the National Democratic National Committee.
Yeah, we saw this morning from the new DNC chair, Ken Martin, announcing an investment in every state in the country, which is a whole lot better than pats on the back and thumbs up from the East Coast. He announced this morning in a press call that state parties would each have a baseline of $17,500 per month, and in Republican-controlled states, $22,500 a month, which really should be a game changer for a lot of these states to have the resources to hire year-round staff and hopefully to be running progressive campaigns in every state in America. Like you're saying, Reagan, I mean, I've been watching the debate back and forth about David Hogg and unseating folks who are kind of like the Texas Monthly designation at the end of each session, furniture, like they're indistinguishable from their furniture. And it's not just about age though, right? But it's about like, what are you doing? Like, are you seriously just a placeholder, or are you working for your community and fighting for your community every day? I mean, we do have some more senior Democrats who are doing that. And then we have folks who really are placeholders, and you do not see them until it's election time and it's time to come out, you know, knock on doors and ask for your vote. And then I won't see you again until 2 years later.
I'd like to throw in there that the 3 that I've decided to pick on today, 2 of them are close to 80 years old. One of them is a little bit below 50 in his late 40s. I don't want to name names. And I also want to say that We've seen Bernie Sanders kicking ass lately, and he is no spring chicken. We've seen Congressman Lloyd Doggett kicking ass lately. He's no spring chicken. It's not about age. It's about understanding what needs to be done, understanding how to represent the people that need representing right now, understanding that we are in a fight, that we are in a serious fight with serious consequences, almost zero sum. And so now is not the time to be jacking around and voting along with the side that would just as soon have us silent.
Yeah, I want to say one more thing about what you brought up, Reagan. I read that book from one of my uncles when I was in college.
Talking about the monkey wrench gang, right?
Yeah, Edward Abbey's book. I read it when after visiting the Grand Canyon with one of my uncles. Read it if you haven't read it. But what you're talking about with all these different organizations that are nonprofits like us, we haven't mentioned Act Blue, which raises grassroots small dollar donors, is being targeted by the fascist Trump administration.
That's right.
To try to take away hundreds of millions of dollars in hardworking Americans' money from the candidates of their choice. Like, we have come so far from Mitt Romney's "corporations are people, my friend." Like, that's free speech. So, but I guess it's free speech if it's coming from ExxonMobil and Meta, but it's not free speech if it's coming from me. Right. To, you know, a state senator candidate of my choice or a city council candidate of my choice. The attacks are across all fronts, and it's so important that you're listening to the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch, and you're listening to In Progress, and you're reading our blogs, and you're sharing our socials, and you're having these conversations, because there's a lot going on that they don't want you to know about, but we want you to know. And that's what we're here on a daily basis to make sure that you're informed, and not just what's going on and what you could join us in being pissed about, but what you can do about it, more importantly. And it's not wait for the next election. It's take action now.
Right, right. I was talking to a Texan, I'll say, who is considering running for a fairly major office in the next, in the 26th cycle. He talked about the difficulty that he's facing with sources of funding that have normally been pretty easy to count on. And so I hope that people like that, including our listener, will see, A, the urgency of the fight, and B, the fact that we've now got the national party taking things a little bit more seriously and sinking some serious money into the state level. That this is not the time to sit out. This is not the time at all to sit out. This is the time, even if, if you have anything at all that you can pitch into the fight, whether that's your time or your treasure, now is the time to get it on and do it. And let's all get together and fight.
And I'll kind of circle that in a bow here a little bit, is that, the parties, the state party is listening to you. The national party is listening to you, dear audience. They are listening, and they are standing up. And that kind of way that you tell us what you want to hear about here at Progress Texas, and we shine the light on it, and we're getting that to the people that can make these decisions, and be able to make sure that we are standing up against the Trump administration, standing up against Governor Abbott and all his cronies, and those big corporate interests. We're a small shop, and like Kathleen and Chris said, we can definitely use those $5, $10, $25 a month donations. And please click on progresstexas.org/donate.
This is maybe a good time for me to say, if you happen to be listening in San Antonio or Austin, that, honestly, the most fun I have, and the most fun way to get involved is to show up for our events. And we have this one coming up on May the 6th. Mayor Ron Nirenberg, who is not, by the way, the potential candidate that I was talking about, although we're real excited to hear about what his plans are. Very, very popular mayor of San Antonio who has turned out. So he's back out in the field and looking for his next adventure. And I'm real excited to hear what that next adventure might be. So we don't know what he's going to say, but he's going to be part of our live podcast taping we're doing in San Antonio on the May the 6th, the day after Cinco de Mayo. And so I want people to come out and see us. I want people to come meet us and come meet the mayor. Come hang out and have a drink and have some fun. And,
it's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah. You're exactly right.
And save the date for Monday, June 9th for our Progress Texas 15th anniversary party. You'll be hearing much more about it in the days to come. I'm so excited to celebrate 15 years with all of you.
That's going to wrap it up. This is In Progress, our weekly jibber jabber. We just basically get together and share with you the things that we normally would just be complaining to each other about. Now we're complaining to you about it. We want to hear your feedback too, as Reagan mentioned. Always all ears at progresstexas.org. Thanks for listening.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Have a beautiful day.